Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rich Palladino. We are here at the Crowne Plaza in Warwick, Rhode Island. A very special part of New England Fan Fest 7, something for the fans to enjoy in video form later. It's a little sit down with two legends of the business. To my immediate left, the esteemed James J. Dillon, member of the WWE Hall of Fame, class of 2017? Let's see. 2012, and of course the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. And second year that JJ Dillon has joined us here at FanFest. And to his left, the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant, his second year with us as well. And Jimmy went into the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame last year. And like I said, this is a straight up shoot interview for our great fans to check out. JJ, just a standard question. Let's talk about how this all began for the legendary James J. Dillon.
Like a lot of people, and many people who have success in the business kind of really like to talk about how it all started. But I was a fan, I'll admit it, and a 16-year-old kid just saw wrestling on TV. I actually was more of a baseball fan and a big Brooklyn Dodger fan. And then around, I think it was around 58, the Dodgers, Giants all moved to the West Coast. And this is before the internet and what have you. And I'd get up, because I was so used to following my team, and I'd look in the morning newspaper and there'd be a line score up to about the third inning. And because of the deadlines for printing it. So my interest kind of waned, and that's when I discovered wrestling, which was on every Thursday night with Ray Morgan from the Capitol Arena. And it was the era of Buddy Rogers and Rocca and Chief Big Heart and Axxess Calhoun. And when they came to, I was born and raised in Trenton, New Jersey, and so when they came to the National Guard Armory in Trenton, I went to the live show, and that was the day I was hooked. It was like, wow, here are these bigger-than-life characters. They're in the flesh where I could see them, meet them, talk to them, and that really hooked me for the business. And I decided then that that's what I wanted to do, and I hung around and befriended some guys. The original Zebra Kid, George Bowles. How many people in the wrestling business have had guys, I'm sure Jimmy has experienced, would go up and, well, I want to be the wrestler, how do I get into wrestling? And there's no book of, oh, okay, this is the steps that you take. If you ask 100 different guys, it's almost like there's 100 different stories of how their journey started. And there's no guarantees, you don't know, but one thing for sure that you have to have a passion for the business, and you have to be willing to accept that there are going to be a lot more disappointments than there are successes. And there's a lot of people, oh, I see it on TV, I want to be a wrestler. And they find that there's a lot of dues that have to be paid. And a lot of guys then get discouraged, they're not really committed to it because they don't really have that deep passion. And the other thing is that no matter how much passion you have, you can't do it on your own. You have to have help from other people. And I started full-time with Jim Crockett, and I had a job, and I was living in Warren, Ohio, and working for a trucking company there in a management program. But I wanted to wrestle, and it was the far end of the Sheik's territory. But I made some contacts. I met a guy named Jim Grabmeyer, who was from Springfield, Ohio, and I work mainly around Pittsburgh. And, every year, Grabmeyer would come back around his home area and work. Then in the summer, he would usually go for Jim Crockett Sr. in Charlotte because they would expand their roster and run a lot of like outdoor shows. So I remember one Friday I got a phone call and it was Grabmeyer had left to go to Charlotte, and he called me and says, "You said that this was your dream, this is what you want to do." And I happened to get to Charlotte and they're really, really short on talent. And I had your publicity picture, and I had been basically a heel up to that point. And they said what they was really hurt for was a baby face. And I just wanted to get my foot in the door. So they said that if you will commit to this was like on a Friday, you can start Monday in Charlotte. So, I mean, you wait all your life dreaming to do this, and then somebody tells you on Friday, excuse me, you can be here Monday and live your dream. And it's funny that you stop and pause because you don't expect it. Now all of a sudden, okay, so I had an old beat up Chevy and I packed everything that I owned, which wasn't a whole lot. And this was around Pittsburgh, and I'd never been further south. I was born and raised in Trenton, New Jersey. And summer vacations with my parents, I had been down as far as Virginia, but no further south than that. And I remember getting in my car and driving day and night to Charlotte. In those days, you could go to the YMCA for $15, and at least you had a clean room, a place to shower, and that's what I did. And the guys used to work out there, Johnny Weaver and Johnny Heidemann and Sandy Scott. I didn't know any of these people. This is before cable television and all that, and I was from the land of the Giants in New York, which were all great big guys. Now I'm in Charlotte and I look around and there was a lot of guys that were 220, 225 that were stars of the business. So it's like, wow, this is not what I'm accustomed. And I ended up staying there for over 2 years. And a lot of people, Les Thatcher kind of took me under his wing. He was a young guy. And they teamed us up. Sandy Scott took a liking to me, and again, I was like 28 years old, so I'm not like a 17-year-old kid. And now it's like all of a sudden I get a chance to live my dream. So, and then, as Jimmy would attest to, virtually anybody that you question about their journey, it's like one door closes, another one opens, and if you've got a good attitude, and people will help you in this business. And I just have had a phenomenal journey.
That's excellent, because your career began as an active competitor, and then of course a lot of people, the younger generation, more familiar with your managerial skills, and of course you work behind the scenes as well. Now Jimmy, JJ was talking about dreams coming true. You as an active competitor for your tremendous career. I grew up watching you and Johnny and Jerry on TV every Saturday morning, terrorizing everybody in the WWF. And then of course you became the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant. But back to my earlier statement, like JJ said about making dreams come true. You're making dreams come true at your wrestling school. So let's talk a little bit about that, a little bit about your career and the Boogie Woogie Man, still doing it, appearing at big conventions and things like this. But let's talk about your wrestling camp as well.
Thanks, Rick. First of all, y'all, hey, I'm a big fan of right here of J.J. Dillon. When I was a little boy, I used to I used to go and watch him, you know. I'd take my grandfather's hand, you know, and he'd lead me in there and I'd watch him wrestle. So I'm a big fan. No, I'm gonna tell you, yeah. I'll tell you something, man. This guy here, we were just talking just a few minutes ago, Richie, where we started, and I said, Jimmy, man, it just takes a certain type of person to do what you did, you know. And here's a very modest man. I mean, he's got a college degree, and not too many wrestlers, I'm telling you, especially back then, you know, went to 4 years of college, but he did, but he you know, always had that helped him, you know. And if I told him, I said, you know, it takes a certain type of person to, like you said, Richie, that works inside the office, inside. I mean, and he was the best. And I'm telling you, he was the best at it. And brother, he helped not only myself, but he helped everybody. And he was right there, you know, not only working all day in the office, but then making the shots at night. And that's what really, a certain type of person will do that, or want to do that. I didn't want. In fact, Jerry Jarrett and Lawler many times offered me to help out in the office in Tennessee. And I said, brother, hey, all I want to do is make the shots, man, and do my thing during the day, and you know. But Dundee, he loved it, you know. Oh man, you know, he just loved that, and he did it, you know. And but I take my hat off, you know, because they're working WWE, and I don't know when they sleep, man. But anyway, I started wrestling, guys, 1964, and yeah, God's been good to me, and if God will allow, I'm going to go one more year. As you said, Richie, I'm still lacing the boots up a little bit, not much. And when I get in there, I don't do it. I just do a little boogie woogie. I goose them, I kiss them. You know, I do the Humpty Dumpty, and I let the young kid, I try to do a tag. Let my young kid, whoever is my partner, you know, do all the bumps, because me and Jimmy's already did that.
In the early days, you worked hard, and then in passing time, you worked smart.
Very good, exactly. And Dick the Bruiser, you know, there's a perfect example. He did the exact same thing, and brother, if Dick, and he was over like $1 million, you know, and of course in the 40s and 50s, he was the top heel in the world. And then he was the first character, him and Crusher was the first character, you know, good guy, you know, crowd pleaser, and that's what the Boogie Woogie was too. I didn't change my style, they didn't either, man. We'd pull hair, man, we'd hit them with cheers, we'd poke them in the eyes, we'd do everything, and then, you know, the bad guy would complain, and then all we'd do is say, hey, did I do that? And the crowd would, and no, they say, no, you had life for it, you know. So we were characters, you know, that and it worked good, you know. But then you had the, you know, the all-American, you know, good guy, and you had to have everything, you know, especially when Jim and myself was out there, and, you know, we had Indians, and, you know, we had the Germans, and Japanese, and, you know, we had the pretty boys, and, you know, we just had and the bodies, you know, we had all type of bodies, you know. Our best body at that time, as far as really a He-Man body, was probably Sailor Art Thomas, and oh man, what a physique he had, you know, and it was all natural, you know, and these boys today, man, they're just chiseled up, and I mean, you know, they all look great, but we had a lot of guys, you know, that were just big guys. They wanted big guys, you know. And a perfect example, Dick the Bruiser and Vern Gagne, when I first started, they said, Jimmy, you know, I had height, I was over 6 foot, and at that time, and but he said, we need the people want to see big guys, and I was real lean. And I remember Jim, he was real lean. He was like a stick, man, and so was I. You know, both of us when we started, we were real lean, and because that's how we were, and
But we had height, which was to an advantage, because
exactly.
in the ring, you appeared bigger than you were if you were standing next to somebody. They would have, wow. You know. But in the ring, because of height, you can get by a little bit, but you still need to fill out.
You bet, and TV even made you look 10 pounds heavier.
Yes.
You know? And so they said, you know, the people want to see, like Jim said, they want to see big guys. And so I don't know what to do, and so I'm working out, you know, of course, and so I started eating 6 sandwiches for lunch, man, you know, and that's 12 pieces of bread, man, you know. And so the diet was, I didn't even have no idea. You know, I made sure I got a dozen eggs in me a day. I drink a gallon of milk a day, so I force-fed. Because I'm not that big bone, you know. I mean, you just look at my wrist right here, you know, and you know, my ankles, I look like a racehorse, you know. But that's how I was. And like now I'm real lean because I didn't want to carry this around now. And I weigh, I could wear the same pants I did in high school right now. But I worked at that too, you know, getting it down and getting big. So I did get big. And then, you know, I got up one time to almost 300 pounds, you know. But anyway, that's another story. But yeah, I was very lucky, you know, 25 years, over 25 years, I was handsome Jimmy Valiant, you know, the bad guy, man. And of course, we teamed up with Johnny, and we won we had a 5-year run, Richie, and as Jim knows, and WWF, and I was there all in the 70s for Vince Sr., and me and Johnny and Jerry, and we went in twice together. The first time, 1970, 71, that area, I went in and by myself as handsome Jimmy Valiant, and that's where I got my initial break with Vince Sr. And so I went in 3 different times, stayed a year, over a year, 15 months each time. But I was very fortunate in 96. Well, all in the 80s, I stayed with Crockett, and in fact, Vince, you know, we call him Vince Jr., but you don't have to call him Jr. It's like Hank Williams Jr., you know. Yeah. You ain't got to call Hank Williams Jr. no more. Well, you don't have to call Vince McMahon Jr., but we called him Jr. at that time, but because, man, he just moved it right to another level.
And his father was so revered in our industry and so respected.
Oh my goodness! You know, I just told Nux and his lovely lady, you know, and Betsy, and I said, you know, whatever Vince Senior told you, you take it to the bank. I mean, man, the day I went in there, and I'm just a young kid. Fritz von Erich gave me my name, Handsome Jimmy Valiant. Gave me my name. I went in Texas, and I went in as Jimmy the Body Valiant. And he gave me my name because Johnny Valentine was there. He said, that's too close, Valentine's too close to Valentine. And then he gave it to me, Valiant, and he's telling me all this, and Handsome Jimmy Valiant. And he named me just, man, he looked at me, he named me just in 5 seconds, man, I'm telling you, it came right off. And I don't know if he thought about it or what, but that's my name. But the whole thing was, I'm thinking to myself, oh, and he said, and I'm gonna work you rough. Well, I wanted to do that so bad. I wanted to be the bad guy, you know. And so that was my whole thing was, and so I didn't. I'm thinking, well, Valiant and Valentine, that's pretty close too, but it didn't matter because I was going to work, you know, rough, and so I was very happy, and he's the one that sent me to Vince, and then. From there, man, it's just history. Man, Vince, you know, teaming up with, and he brought me in as a good guy because they needed just a young, good-looking kid. That's exactly what Fritz. I thought I was born in as a rough guy, you know, and here I am. I talk about in my book, you know, my autobiography, and it's called "Woo, Messy Daddy, Welcome to My World," the Jimmy Valiant story. And it's 600 pages, man. It weighs 3 pounds. I tell people, buy you 2 copies, put one in each hand, you do curls, you work out with them. And Jimmy's got a good one, man, and yeah, you know, hey, I'll plug Jimmy too, brother, because I read it, and the Seagulls, yeah, man, it's a great book, bro. I really enjoyed it, but anyway, I walked in real fast, and you know, they flew me in, and I really didn't know exactly what was going on. At first, I didn't even want to go because I just came out of Oklahoma to Dallas, and I was working for Leroy McGurk, and that's just when they just bought in, Gagne bought in, and Bill Watts bought in, and Vern Gagne bought in to the Oklahoma territory. And Watts was there, you know, running and with Leroy. But yeah, oh, geez, 2 laners too, Jimmy. I can tell you nothing, brother. 2 lane, everything 2 lane, but that Louisiana, man, that Louisiana line, man. Vince, oh, I go in and I see Vince and in there in the room, and Monsoon says, just go right on in, Jimmy. He's expecting you, and he looked over his gold glasses at me, and he says, come here, Jimmy, you know, and so we talk, and he says, you know, you remind me of someone made us a lot of money, and that was years ago, Mr. America, Gene Stanley. Gene Stanley, he was a blonde, good body, and pop, and just young kid, and made him. So he liked that, and he says, here, let me show you who you'll be working with the next 30 days, and every shot you, every 6 days a week, sometimes 7, but a lot of times just 6 there. But it's all with the Black Demon, which was Tony Nero. And I said, the Black Demon, is this a heel? You know, he said, yeah. He says, yeah, we need a young, good-looking kid. That's why you're here. And that's what I asked for. And I said, oh. And he said, is there something wrong with that? And I said, well, I thought I would, yeah. And I wanted to be a heel so bad, guys, you know. And at that time, but Bruiser, you know, the first, you know, 5-6 years of my career, they wouldn't let me because they looked at us, Jimmy, and this is how we were learned on TV, and just to get out there and work TV, and that's maybe all you get, you know. But this is how we broke in, and we were just young white meat for these nasty heels, you know. But you bet, just be a pro wrestler, man. You bet, and but this is how we started, and this is part of our life, and we were very fortunate, both of us, to you know, to take that and parlay it to great careers, and not bragging, but everything's timing, and I was very fortunate to be able to you know, really have 2 different complete careers. You know, one as 25 years as a good guy, handsome Jimmy Valiant, a bad guy, handsome Jimmy Valiant, then the Boogie Woogie Man, you know, good guy, you know. So I was very fortunate. But anyway, real fast, get back to Vince, and like we were talking, man, you take this to the bank, what he says, and he says, he said, yeah, he's a bad guy, and blah, 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 blah. And he said, but he says, if you want to, you know, work this other way, and he said, I'll tell you what, he says, if you get over, and he says, we'll help you. And I'll tell you how he helped me get over. And he says, in 6 months, you know, we'll switch you around and I'll make you a lot of money. And he must have wrote the sucker down on his tablet, I mean, on his calendar, because to the day, 6 months exactly, Philadelphia, and how he got, Richie, how he got helped me get over, but he teamed me up with the #2 babyface in the whole WWF, which was strong, and so Chief J, and of course the #1 of course was Bruno, you know, so he's right next to Bruno, and so how can you miss? Because I as soon as they teamed me up with them, and he took me under his wing and you know, because all his heat went on me automatically, just be associated with him as tag team partners, and we wrestled everybody. And you know, Tarzan Tyler and Crazy Luke Man was the WWF World Tag Team Champions, and we had a run with them. But 6 months to the day, I switched on Strongbow. He taught me his Indian sleeper hold, and I put him to sleep with what he taught me, and there it went, man. And each time, you know, when I left Bruiser, and they told me Gagne booked me to Oklahoma. They said you're gonna make $300 a week. I said okay, so I went there, and then I stayed. I just stayed like 3 months, and then Fritz wanted me in Dallas, so I made that move with my family, and got all set up and everything. And he said, you're gonna make $400. He tell me, and I did. I made $400 a week, and it was real good money. And I was done with it. It was different time, oh, completely. And then when I went to New York, and he said, you're gonna make $500. And I did, and I made $500 a week, like clockwork for 6 months for my family. And when they switched me, and he said, he said, we're gonna, you know, make the switch and make the money. And from that day, the very next check was like $1,500 a week, and I made it straight on all the way until I finished there, and then he sent me to Japan, and I made that tour, and just talking again, you know, I had a wonderful career. This is the best thing of my life. You know, they say, I tell the people, when I was in school, man, my favorite class was recess, because I loved to play, man. That was my favorite class, recess, man. You know, just a kid, and here I found what I did for my living, and Jim too, and you know what? I'm still playing. You know, it's like recess, man. And Johnny Carson and so many other people say the same thing, but I remember Johnny Carson saying one time, and I thought it was something original. He said, but I've heard a lot of people say it now, but he said, if you do something in your life that you love, you never work a day in your life. That's true. And brother, that stuck in my mind, and I said, that's what I'm doing. And that's what I'm doing today. And I'm very fortunate, Richie, to 28 years now, me and my lovely wife, Angel, we started a wrestling camp for the kids and make their dream come true. And just check out jimmyvaliant.weebly.com, and everything's there. And brother, if you're ever in Virginia, I want to invite everybody to come be my guest. Big Joe, I said, bring your family, man. I just love Big Joe, you know, putting all this on. He is the main cat, man. God bless him. But we have a Hall of Fame museum there, just real fast. We're there every Sunday, 12 noon to 4. There's no charge. It's completely no ticket to buy. You just come and hang out. And Nux has been there twice. He's coming back twice this year. And yeah, Betsy, his lovely lady who came, has been there already. And I'm looking for Big Joe to show up one day. But yes, sir. Yes, sir. He said he'll be there. And you too, Richie. And really just come and hang out and just be our guest. And you got full access to all the buildings. And this is our 28th year. And I'm just, you know, helping the kids. I've already lived my life, and Jimmy has too. And so now it's their turn to make their dream come true, professional wrestling.
That's great stuff, and yeah, absolutely. As I said at the outset, we're recording this for All Access Entertainment. A little something to give back to our fans. We have some esteemed guests and friends that we've allowed into the room, so if any of our guests have any questions or comments or anything, please feel free, just wave me down. If not, I'm just going to keep talking, because I know we have a little bit more time here. The one thing that I've got from this conversation too is about how you both broke in the territory system back then. You could be working for the Crockett's for 6 months, 2 years, and then go somewhere else. Jimmy, I know you, after probably your third run with WWF, you went to Memphis, and you had a hell of an angle out there with Tommy Rich and all kinds of great things. And yeah, Jerry Lawler. And I do want to, I want to fast forward to one of my favorite times, if you guys don't mind talking about it, because in the mid-'80s, we talked about how you were the heel. You were handsome Jimmy Valiant. And all of a sudden, now you're the Boogie Woogie Man, and one of the most over baby faces in the territory. At the same time, you're the antagonist. James J. Dillon, you had Buddy Landell in your stable at the time, and of course, you partnered up with a gentleman that's in the building right now, Tully Blanchard, of course, and then the Four Horsemen. So a lot of great storylines where you guys are actually against one another. But that seems like such a dynamic time in this business. Those mid-'80s, that Crockett run with Dusty Rhodes at the helm and Ric Flair as the world champion. It was probably the most energetic, exciting time that I remember in the NWA. If you guys don't mind, I'd love to just talk a little bit about that era, if you don't mind. We'll start with you, JJ, if you don't mind.
Yeah, it was, I had a great career, but those were the best years as I remember, and as you're experiencing it at the time, you don't realize how lucky you are. It's just like everything that as you go through life, sometimes everything that you do, nothing ever works out the way you thought it was going to. And then you find yourself in a time where everything you do works the other way and turns to gold. And the amazing part of that area, because you had the Rhode Warriors, and they were unique. And then you had guys that could, like the Rock and Roll Express, that were certainly not the Road Warriors, but whoever was wrestling, the matches were not the same. It was these monsters, and then the Rock and Roll, Ricky Morton, you could get heat with him as a villain, where people loved him so much that he would have a way of just. There's a difference, Jimmy would understand this, but there's a difference between selling and dying. And you don't want somebody to be dying in the ring. You want somebody who, as a fan sitting there watching, still thinks, okay, you're cheating, you're doing everything that you shouldn't do, and you're beating him down, but he's not down and out yet. And they show a little bit of fight back and a little bit of glimmer of hope, and then you grind it down again, and it's like every time, you can't stop them. And it seems like such a simple story, and it is a simple story. And then eventually, it takes its toll on you as the guy that's delivering out the punishment, and then when that babyface, that fire gets lit in him and he fires up. Now you as a heel have to then have the energy to be flying around, taking bumps, hitting the drop kicks. So there's never any respite. You're always working. But Jimmy was, of that period, was an exceptional talent. And it was, Rock and Roll were a great team. Dusty was one thing, but Jimmy, if you compliment him, and as an individual, you could have a hell of a match and draw money with Jimmy, and Jimmy and Dusty were together. I mean, that was magic too. But it just was a great time in the industry, and I look back at it as being really, for me, the glory years.
Absolutely, we're talking Great American Bash. These guys are selling out stadiums. Ric Flair's coming in on a helicopter. And during that time, Jimmy, you had a great angle with Paul Jones. I'd love to actually get into that if you don't mind. I think one of the best angles I remember, probably in 1986, you and Pez Watley. And then he cut the ponytail, and that just turned into everybody shaving each other's head pretty much for the summer of '86. Love to just get your perspective on that part of your career, if you don't mind.
You bet. Reggie, real fast here, and I'm gonna get right into that, is Jimmy, he had a stable just like Paul Jones' Army. And like you said, you know, Buddy Landell and Tully Blanchard, and I mean, you know, he had his boys, and Paul Jones had his boys. And one time, y'all, we were in, I know he won't blush because he's probably got him on right now. But no, what I'm saying is, this is so funny, guys. We're in, and he knows what I'm going to say probably. We were in Asheville, North Carolina, and of course that's the afternoon show, and from there we go to, it's a double shot. We work 7 days a week, guys, and you don't realize that. I told Nuts that. We worked 7 days a week for Crockett's in the 80s. It was so hot. They ran 3 towns a night, and Jimmy was in the office and putting all that together. Man, I'm telling you, I take my hat off again to him. But we'd work twice on Saturday and twice on Sunday, because every Saturday we was at the Superstation. And then we'd go somewhere that night, you know, in Ohio or wherever, and then of course, on Saturday, you know, we'd have a double shot, and so we'd work 9 times a week. You know, and only time they took off, you know, was just the week before Christmas. And we'd come back Christmas Day and sell out Greenville in the afternoon and Charlotte that night. Every Christmas Day, man.
We're talking more than $300 a week at that point.
There you go, brother. There you go. Yes, yeah. Oh, it was, like he said, it was just magic, and it was so hot, and they had the best talent. Steamboat, Wow, Piper, Andre the Giant. We had it all, you know. Everybody was there, you know. And like he said, the Road Warrior, Rock and Roll, and Cornette, and the Midnight Express, and oh man, you just keep going on. And then Paul Jones and Army. I'm gonna get right to that, but I got to tell you about Jim. We had a little match there, and if I beat his man, I would get 5 minutes with Jim, and so. You know, his man must have slipped on a banana peel or something. Anyway, I covered him 1, 2, 3, and now I got 5 minutes with J.J. Dillon, and so finally, you know, I finally corner him, and I start ripping his clothes off and everything, and when I pull his pants off, he's got lady bloomers on with ruffles on them. They're pink. He's got the hose on, you know, and he's got the what do you call the like suspenders? They garter, the garters on the thing, and oh man, it's just like Paul Jones. We had a tuxedo match one time, and I stripped him down, and I had him tied up his hand, well, one hand anyway, and he's trying to cover up, and he had the little tights on or underwear on, and oh, it was the funniest thing. And same with Jimmy. But I don't know if you still got word of it. I don't know yet. But anyway, that was great. You know what we did, and man, it's something that people still talk about. You know. But yeah, Paul Jones and his Army, man, he had such a stable. I mean, you know, from Barbarian to they even brought in Abdullah the Butcher. The superstar Billy Graham, and you said Shaska Watley, and you know, he just brought in his Army after me, and it was Valiant's War, and I was by myself. Of course, I did tag matches, and I'd either work with Paul Jones or one of his Army 7 days a week, and it was one of the longest feuds. Really, I mean, straight through. I mean, me and Lawler was been going on, like you said, when I went to Memphis in '77, and it's still going on, man. Me and Lawler, I still go up there, but of course, you know, we team up together, but or whatever now. But a steady feud. It went like 5 years, you know, there, and oh man, it was so good there. I was so fortunate that, man, they just kept feeding me, you know. I mean, we started out with Ivan Koloff for 9 months, you know, and he was the TV's champion, and that's where your money's at right there. Is you know, the good guy chasing it, you know, and trying to get it, and of course, and then you know, one man gang and Boogie, oh man, you know, with Gary Hart, Playboy, and they just kept just feeding me, and you know, then I got with Jim and you know, Tully, and God bless him, and you know, just so much. And then finally we ended up with Paul Jones, and you're right. And Paul Jones was one of the man, he was like a matinee idol. I mean, you know, he was such a great looking guy, man, and he was over like $1 million as a good guy, you know, and for all them years, and they always wanted to get his hair, all the bad guys, and he never lost his hair, so it was something really special, and so we blew it off with this, and it all came down to finally, yeah, we were shaving all their hair, and Roski was in his army, you know, they just, you know, you bet, oh yeah, man, yeah. But finally, it came down to everybody knew that it's up now, hair against hair, and you know, I says, hey, you know, I wrestle every night. You're a manager, and you know, at one time you would really, you know, it'd be something because you were a wrestler, but you haven't wrestled in 5 years, and I says you're out of shape, and you know, you just walk around and run your mouth. I said, so everybody knew that I could beat him and shave his hair, and it worked, but it double crossed how they did it, and I sat there and they shaved my head. You know, like a man, like I was supposed to, but that worked, and then we came back and we and he didn't want to do it again, of course, because you know he's happy and bald-headed geek. I was calling him the bald-headed geek. Now they're calling me bald-headed geek, and so finally I had to put up Big Mama's hair. You know, if I lost this time. Big Mama's going to get her head shaved, or he's going to get his head shaved, you know, and so that's the only way we got him to sign, and bop, and so we finally ended the feud, and I finally slipped over and there and shaved his head, and hey, we were both bald-headed geeks there, but it was all good, man, it was all good.
It was such a great time. I remember there would be, and we're talking mid-'80s.
Yeah.
So technology wasn't quite what it is today, but I do remember there would be a picture of Paul Jones, and then they would superimpose what his head would look like, bald. He'd go out of his mind. And like you said, I mean, I never heard the term bald-headed geek as much as I did during that run. As we wind this up, I'm gonna just round it up with one last question before we wrap this up, because I know you guys got fans out there at the convention. We did this a little bit earlier in the morning, a little something for you guys at home to be able to watch. And I'm going to wrap it up here with JJ, because you both kind of talked about it. You had Paul Jones stable, you had JJ Dillon in a stable, you referenced Gary Hart. It seems that in this day and age, the art of the pro wrestling manager is not as prevalent as it once was. So if you don't mind, and I have no notes, and this is just all coming from here, if you don't mind, I'd love to just get your views as we close this out. What happened to the art of the pro wrestling manager in this day and age, as it's pretty much non-existent?
Yeah, I look back at and I regard Gary Hart as #1, the best, and he really was. He was so gifted, you know, in terms of interviews and just his presence around ringside. And again, it is a lost art because change happens in everything, in the wrestling business as well. And the biggest change was the internet and cable television, because before, like if you were in Florida, they produced a television show in Florida that only aired in Florida, and then later on it aired in the station out of New Jersey, so people up in the Northeast now got to see a product that was different than what they were accustomed to seeing. But back in those days, the local promotion, wrestling had many definitions. It wasn't like you look at a book and say, well, this is what wrestling is. Well, wrestling is a lot of things. And if you were in Florida, Eddie Graham wanted Briscoe, legitimate collegiate champion. Bob Roop, Olympic champion, and Hiro Matsuda. And so the people were educated to respect wrestling that way. But if you went to Tennessee or you went to Detroit with the Chief and it was balls to the wall, it was like, if you had the two things side by side, it was like, they're calling both of these wrestling, but I don't see much other than they're both taking place in a ring. But that was fine. People became educated to whatever their product was, and like the Sheik up in Michigan, Ohio, he was extremely successful. Yet Eddie Graham in Florida, with a whole different approach, was successful as well. And that was the beauty of wrestling. And if you had talent, like Jimmy has such phenomenal talent, he could go work for Eddie Graham in Florida and be successful, and yet he could go, up for the Sheik and be successful there too, because he's just got such a wide range of talents. But it was a wonderful time in the business. And of course, cable television changed all that, because all of a sudden their fans were educated, like in Florida. Well, this is wrestling. We see Jack Briscoe and Hiro Matsuda and Bob Roop, and wow, what I'm seeing out of Tennessee or Detroit is calling that wrestling. It doesn't look like anything that I ever saw. But that was okay, because it certainly it didn't hurt the business. It just was part of it, growing part of it. And wrestling fans are incredibly loyal, greatest fans in the world, more so than baseball fans or anything else. And if they like you and support you, they're loyal to you. I've been blessed to have a wonderful career and to rub elbows with some quality people. One of whom is sitting right here next to me. And as I look back, I have no regrets. I was able, with whatever changes took place, to be able to adapt and survive and continue to be successful in the business. Good feeling.
Great. I can't thank you guys both enough. We're going to take you right out to your tables. The convention is beginning, so that's a wrap here. I want to thank J.J. Dillon, Jimmy Valiant. Thank you both so much. And you're watching All Access Entertainment. Thank you.